Okay, so Laura and I met in the classic way of a dating app on Bumble, and so we matched on there and sent a few messages back and forth, and really hit it off, I thought, and had some good conversation and exchanged numbers, and then Laura kind of disappeared for a little while, and I wasn't sure what was going on or if we would ever meet up, and eventually I just kind of came out and asked her what was going on, and she said that she wasn't really ready to have a relationship, so I told her I understood and that we could still be friends. I didn't really mean that part, but wanted to stick around and hopefully find my way in. And so I gave her some space, and a couple weeks went by, and I actually talked to my sister Carly and said, hey, should I text this girl again or just cut my losses? And all thanks to Carly, she said, yeah, you might as well give it a shot. So I texted Laura, and we kind of hit it back off. And basically I just said, hey, are you ready to meet me yet? And she said, yeah, I think so. And once again, things kind of fell apart. I think she got sick, and we weren't able to meet up at the initial time that we had set. And so kind of long story short, I ended up saying, hey, it seems like you really don't want to meet me, but I would love to meet you. So let's meet for coffee. I'll set a timer for 25 minutes. And when the timer goes off, you can leave. So you're not forced to sit there with someone that you don't want to hang out with. We'll see how it goes. And I just felt like she was someone special that I really wanted to meet, and that if I could just meet her in person, that she would see just how amazing I am, right? So from there, we hit it off. The timer was never set, and we ended up hanging out for like an hour and a half at the coffee shop. And I thought that was a long date. Apparently she did not think that was long enough, but I was like, an hour and a half, I don't want to keep her too long. It took enough to get her here. So yeah, we had that first date, and we hit it off really well, and yeah, it's history from there.
And what were some of your first impressions of her? Or hold on one second, the clouds keep moving, so I'm trying to adjust as I'm going. This is always video life. There's always something. There's never not something.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how many weddings I'll like sit down with the bride to start the interview, and some like a groundskeeper will start mowing the place like right outside the video. It's like, this always happens. And okay, now there's more sun. And so give me 1 second, just again. And okay, now go for it. What are some of your first impressions of her?
Well, obviously I thought she was beautiful, just from, the pictures, and then meeting her in person for the first time. So that's always a positive. Some of our first conversation online, she is big into the Enneagram, and so she kind of diagnosed me right away, and I thought that was pretty cool. Seemed like someone that was very insightful, very thoughtful, intelligent. She seemed to be pretty funny, and so when we finally did meet in person, all those things were kind of confirmed, and conversation flowed really easily. There wasn't any awkward pauses, and there wasn't a lot of small talk, which is something that I struggle with and kind of hate. So it was very easy to talk with her, and fun just right off the bat, which is something that in the dating world you don't usually experience on a first date.
And then I'm trying to think of more good history questions. When was the moment that it went from like, I really like this girl to like, oh, I'm really gonna like this girl?
Mm-hmm. I always go back to a moment at her then rent house, and just sitting on the back porch, and we had dinner. I came over and we cooked dinner together, and we were just sitting out on the swing on the back porch, and she played her hand pretty close to the chest. She was hard to read the first couple times that we hung out, but she doesn't seem to think that's how she was. But I didn't know what was going through her mind, but we were sitting on the back porch on the swing and just kind of hanging out and having very deep conversation and sharing about our life and dating up to this point, and just some about our personalities. And we'd already had a great night laughing and making dinner together. And I can't say in that moment that I knew that I would marry this girl, but I thought this is different, and she's different, and that this could really be something special.
And so when was the moment that you did know, like, I'm going to marry this girl?
Oh, I don't know if there's like an exact moment when I knew that I was going to marry her, but it all happened pretty quick. So a few months in, I would kind of just make jokes just to test the waters, just to see kind of where she was at, and just make little comments like, oh, well, I guess I just better put a ring on it, or, well, I guess I'm going to have to marry you then, and just little things like that. And she never seemed to deny it. So I thought I had a pretty good in, and so I felt like I was ready maybe before she was, but it was kind of different for both of us to just really feel like we clicked so well and that it worked, and we really had no questions after maybe 6 months in that this was our person, and that we should just lock it up for life.
And then, trying to think of a good question that would be fun to ask both of y'all that I feel like I get conflicting answers on.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe like, what are you, or I have to think of how to put it, like, what are you not worried about for marriage, but like the things that you foresee, like, having to overcome,
Yeah.
Let me think of a good way to put it. Well, I don't know if that would really fit.
Like, what's an obstacle you think you'll have to overcome in marriage, or?
Well, let's start with a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you most looking forward to about going from like dating to marriage?
Mm-hmm. I'm really just looking forward to, having my best friend be my live-in roommate, and just totally doing life together and really merging lives, just being together all the time, and having someone there to share the joys and the burdens, and just kind of share responsibility with, and kind of adventure through life with.
And at the reception, who's going to be the better dancer?
Oh, Laura. 100%. Yeah, she loves to dance and I do not. So, yeah, she'll be out there cutting it up and I may not be. We will see.
Then you really covered a lot in that beginning of like y'all's relationship. Trying to think of one more maybe question to splice in there to elaborate. What have been some of the things that you feel like just your favorite things you've gotten to know about Laura and things you feel that she's really taught you through your friendship together. And for this question, you can sort of like rephrase it as you put it, like I've really learned from her, blah blah blah. So it'll be easier to splice it in somewhere.
One of the things that I really learned from Laura is just how to empathize more with others. And if any conversation or disagreement is brought up, or maybe I'm a little irritated with someone, she loves to play the devil's advocate and take it from their side. And sometimes that's a little aggravating, but at the end of the day, it's something that I should do more, and that she's really taught me of like how to walk in someone else's shoes. And in doing so, it's a lot easier to love people well when you can kind of empathize with them and where they're coming from and their situation and their environment. So that's one of the things that she's definitely taught me and made me better at.
And then any just final capping off words or thoughts, and you could even think of it like, the video will be playing at the reception, so y'all will have been married by then. So you could like say something about that or whatever, but just like some final words.
Oh, well, I don't know what the future holds, but so far it's been amazing. I didn't know if I would ever find my person. I definitely had my doubts. I know Laura had her doubts too. And so just to find someone that makes you feel so completely known and cared for and loved, I think is a small picture of our relationship with Christ and what that has meant to me in my life when I've really struggled just with my personality type. And I think Laura is much the same, of just not ever fully feeling known 100%, and kind of struggling with that in different relationships and aspects of going through life. So it's amazing. It's been amazing so far, and I am excited about the future. And at this point, we are Mr. and Mrs. McGaw, and that is amazing because I think I'm the last male to carry on the name. So hopefully we can keep the line going with the McGaw family in a couple years. So yeah, don't get too excited to be grandparents just yet, Mom and Dad. But yeah, exciting times ahead.
So Neil and I met on Bumble, and it took a little bit of time to actually meet, and that was my fault mostly, completely. I was feeling pretty over first dates, over dating, and just pretty discouraged in the sense of not really sure if I would ever find someone that I clicked with and would be a good match with for life. I feel like I have a pretty strong intuition, and with everybody, it just, little things didn't feel right, especially if I were to think about it in the sense of long term. So Neil and I matched on Bumble, and we talked a little bit, and it was a good conversation, but I was like, okay, I just was kind of over dating and wasn't super excited about it per se. And he persisted and would reach out again, and I would have moments where I was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready to date again, let's meet. And then when it came time, I didn't really want to anymore, and I was a little bit flaky. Only before we met, though. Once we met, I was not flaky anymore. We finally met up at a coffee shop, and I remember as soon as we did, it was just a few minutes in, and like I said, that intuition kicked in, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I almost slept on this guy. Like, he's actually really cool, and I don't see any red flags yet. And as we kept hanging out and dating, I kept thinking, okay, this is really interesting. Like, I don't see any big red flags of why we wouldn't really work. And I don't want to jump ahead of myself. Who knows? Who knows? Even later on, as people are like, oh, so, what do you think about the future? And I'm like, yeah, who knows? We don't know. But inside, I was like, I don't know. I've not seen any reason that this wouldn't keep progressing, which was kind of a new feeling for me. So we met a little bit before the world shut down with COVID. And so it was an interesting time where I met him, we went on a couple dates, and then I got notified that I wasn't going back to work to teach. We were shutting down and everything closed. And so all of a sudden I had nothing but time to hang out with him when he was free and run errands for him and do work on his house that he had just finished building while he was at work, because I wasn't really seeing anybody else and everything was closed and I had nothing else to do. So it provided us with a lot of time to get to know each other really deeply. And it was a positive sign that we did not get sick of each other, even though we were kind of the only people we were spending time with. And as we were spending time with each other, more and more I realized how compatible our personalities are for each other, how like he appreciates my quirks and I appreciate his, and there's just a comfortability with each other and understanding with each other. And the more time spent with each other, the closer we feel, rather than like little irritations becoming prominent. And so we kept dating and now we're getting married.
And what were some of your first impressions of him?
Like our very first date, first impressions, or in the beginning?
Well, you share some of both.
Okay. First impressions. Well, I don't know if he told you the story of how we very first met. This isn't exactly a first impression, but we were sitting there at the coffee shop and he made it really awkward because I stood up to give him a hug. And I'm not really a hug person in general, but I wanted to make it feel comfortable and normal. And he was like, I'm not going to just hug a stranger I don't know, make them, feel uncomfortable, because why would I hug you if I don't know you? And I kind of feel the same way, but I'm trying to make it feel not like it's a first date for everyone else in the coffee shop looking at us. And so he reaches out for a handshake as I go in for a hug, and we do the little like, So definitely made it obvious for everyone watching if anyone was around, but that's okay. But that gave us something to joke about later and gave me something to give him a hard time about in the next few times we saw each other. First impressions was that he was very nice and seemed cool and we got along well. He's someone that takes there's a little bit of an air of mystery with him where you don't really get to see his full personality till a little more time is spent with him. But time with him was never boring or uncomfortable, but more of his silliness and goofiness and weirdness comes out a little bit later. And I remember we were hanging out maybe like fourth or fifth time, and he started to just kind of sing like out loud, like whatever silly little song came to his mind. And I remember in that moment thinking like, oh, okay, like this is him, this is good. And he felt comfortable enough with me to like be fully himself, and I really liked that self that I was seeing. Favorite things about Neil. There are things I admire about him as a person, and then there are things about our dynamic that I appreciate so deeply. So I really admire his, and I want to think about this for a second so I can give a true articulated answer. So that will give me the time to think about it. I admire his appreciation and desire for authenticity, both for himself and for other people. I really appreciate the way that he cares about other people, and in like tangible ways, like if there's someone that needs something that day, or they need a place to stay the night, or they need something done on their house, or a favor, or whatever, he will go above and beyond and out of his way to go help and serve that person, even if he wasn't specifically asked for it, because he cares. And he is just like someone who really loves and cares about his family and his friends. He's a hard worker. He is a kind person, and all those things. I mean, it's just lovely to have that in a person. But then with our dynamic and who he is in a relationship is it's very positive. We can edit this a little bit because I don't like the way that I'm not able to articulate my thoughts.
Yeah.
So don't use the word positive. But with our relationship, he's able, and in life too, this isn't just exclusive to our relationship, but I see it play out in our relationship, is that he is quick to forgive, quick to get over things that may irritate him. He is very understanding, and so we never have to sit in tension or in an argument for long periods of time, even if there are things that we disagree with sometimes. He is able to pick up on when I am sad. He's able to pick up on stress for me anytime I'm in any sort of heightened emotional state, and he's able to care for me and how I would need to be cared for in that time. And that's huge. We're able to laugh together. He thinks I'm funny. I think he's so funny. And it makes time together just really enjoyable. I might need more questions
No,
to
that's fine.
be more specific.
Yeah, there's always that fine line between you want to ask something, but you don't want to cut someone off. But then they're like, do I keep talking? And so what are some of the things you're most excited about? Or wait, I should go. I forgot some of the ones I asked Neil. When did you start considering more feeling like you knew this is the real deal? We can do this for life.
Yeah. I think I knew this was the real deal. We can do this for life before, or I know that I knew it before I was willing to admit it to myself. I knew it intuitively before I was comfortable voicing that, because I always have been the type of person to protect myself, and who knows the future, which is true. Who knows, especially in a beginning stage. But my beginning senses of thinking this really might be the person that I marry were kicking in a way that was internally admitting I wouldn't be scared or disappointed by that happening. That doesn't bring me anxiety to think about. I might like to think about the idea of marrying him. This is pretty early on, and that was a new sensation for me. Anytime I'd ever really, been dating anyone, the idea of marriage with that person would bring me a bit of anxiety, because I knew that probably just wasn't a right fit. And I didn't have that with him, and so it was a little bit okay, well, let's not jump ahead of ourselves. A few months in, was the first person to say, I love you. I felt like he felt it too, but didn't want to scare me, because I talked a big game of I'm really slow to catch feelings and all of these things. And so I said it first, and it was crazy that I said it and I felt it and I meant it, and I didn't feel any sort of, no, I didn't really mean that. I was like, oh my gosh, I really do mean that. And that, again, a new feeling for me, and it felt really awesome. And so I think because of the amount of time we spent together, because the world had shut down, it kind of escalated. Just the time we spent was concentrated, and I was able to more quickly realize our compatibility. And I don't know if there was a complete specific moment of knowing that this was going to be the person. It definitely was not for either of us a story of, oh, when I met them, I knew. When people say that, I'm like, did you? No, you didn't. But it didn't take too long for me to feel pretty comfortable with the idea of, wow, this really might be that person for me. And then as time went on, it became more and more apparent that, well, this will be that person for me.
And then, what are some of the things you're most excited about from moving to like dating to married?
Let me think about that for a second to give a real answer. And you can use this or not use this, but I'm excited about being excited to spend the rest of my life with somebody. I think a lot of times the idea of that, without having a specific person that I connected so well with to tie it to, that idea felt very scary and very daunting. And it is really exciting to have somebody where that doesn't feel scary and daunting anymore, where it feels exciting and positive. I'm excited to grow together. I'm excited to live life together and to have the confidence of, I'm going to live life alongside of someone who's going to be patient with me, who's going to take the time to work through conflict and be willing to communicate when we have misunderstandings or feel misunderstood with each other. I'm excited to get to spend all my time with someone who makes me so happy to be around. And for a long time, I didn't know if I was ever going to find that person. And so that is an exciting thing.
And at the reception, who's going to be a better dancer?
Me or him? He doesn't like to dance very much, but we'll make him. You guys got to help me. We'll pull him out on the dance floor. I am very excited to dance. Music gets me going, but him not as much. So a better dancer? No, it's probably still going to be me. But we'll make him dance a little bit too.
That's what he said too. But and then now any just like final words, and since it'll be at the reception, you can talk about like, say like, oh, you know, we're already married, or like whatever with that, but just some like closing thoughts.
Am I kind of addressing like the people watching it or no?
Yeah, like you can break the wall and be like, you know, we're now Mr. and Mrs. McGaw.
Yeah.
And yeah, just any like closing
Okay.
thoughts.
Well, we did it. We are now, as you guys are watching this, officially married, Mr. and Mrs. McGaw, Laura McGaw. And I am super excited, and I'm so thankful for everyone that came and celebrated with us, and I can't wait to keep celebrating with you guys. And love you all, and I love you, Neil, and here we are.